that I know that you guys are doing, and hit the OK for the recording so that everybody who can't be here live gets access to that recording. They won't be able to see you. It's going to be on speaker view. But I'm so glad that you guys are here. So let me know in the chat where you guys are tuning in from. I had a few questions come in through emails from people who couldn't be here live, and one more that I just got on my Instagram. So we'll share those. But yeah, let me know who you guys are and where you're tuning in from. And we'll give everybody like another minute or two to get on here. In the meantime, I'm going to put you guys on mute until we start the Q&A and kind of get into it. Northern New Jersey. Hey, Christy, I know who you are. I hope you're doing well and that you enjoyed some of this nice weather that we had out here in Jersey, because it really was warm for a hot second. It was kind of nice. I figure in like 2 more minutes, we'll just get into it just to give people time. Or, you know what, let's just hop into it. Let's just hop into it. And if anybody misses the beginning, it's fine, because I want to make sure we get through all the questions. So Christy and iPhone, what I would like to do is whatever questions you guys have, if you don't mind putting on your cameras for those, just so I connect in with you. I want to know what things you guys want answered and what you have going on. Christy, it's so nice to see your face. Okay, so and let me know what questions. Hi, Carolyn. I want to know what questions you guys have, what things you're thinking for this Q&A. I've never done anything like this before. This is so wildly outside of what I've tried. So I'm excited. This is going to be fun. So either Christy or Carolyn, anything you have on your minds? Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Question, Q&A. Let me see what I have. I've always said that I wanted to write a book. So how do you go about figuring out what book to write? Like where to even start? Like where do you even begin?
That's such a good question, and one that I really struggled with, honestly, when I first started. My whole journey with the book writing process started about 3 years ago. And at the time, I wasn't sure about the book I wanted to write, but I knew that I wanted to write something. I had an Akashic Records session, and during that Akashic Records session, it came out that I was going to write a book, but that didn't help at all. So what I started to do was I started to drop into meditations where I started to really visualize what my life was going to look like after the book was over. And then I started to work backwards, where I started thinking about, okay, if that's where I'm going to end up at the end, then what are the steps that are going to get me there? What is my life going to look like? And hey, Amanda, it's going to put you on mute for a sec while we do this, answer the Q&A. The question is, how do you figure out what book to write? So I worked backwards from there. Once I had a clear picture of where I was heading and what my future was going to look like, what I did was I started just taking notes every day in a journal. And I actually have that journal here in my drawer. And it was random. It really was. Every day I use this book. It has journal on the front, and I just wrote. And there was no rhyme or reason to it. Anything I felt inspired by, anything that felt like it was interesting to me, I just started writing down. And when I had enough stuff where I felt like there was a theme, there was like an obvious direction that it was going, that's when I started to use all the stuff that I bring into Writers Academy, my online writing course. So I started creating an outline for what it would look like. And I started really doing some brain dumps on the topic. And actually wasn't even shadow work. I have another book that's kind of on the back burner waiting to come out when the time is right. And that book was one where I really had all the structure, all the pieces. I wrote it out exactly as I teach people in Writers Academy, but it started with those brain dumps. Because what I teach people in Writers Academy and what I say to others all the time is everybody has so many books within them. There's so many things you could write about. You could write a book about your life. You could write a book about something that you're really passionate about. You could write it about somebody else. You could write something that's fiction. Where to start? And so start writing all of them. Start just putting little bits of each one down. And you're going to figure out pretty quickly that there's one or two that you just have a lot more on. There's a lot more information that's going to come out when you start to do those brain dumps. And when you start to have that traction and the writing becomes easier and easier, creating that full-length book is going to be very simple, especially if you do the method I teach in Writers Academy, where you create the outline first, you create the chapter titles, you use the same structure that I teach. That's the same one most self-help authors use. If you're doing a self-help book, we're just reverse engineering a different book. If there's like a type of book you want to write, like a memoir, you figure out what their formula is, what do other people do, and work backwards. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out which book. I think I've heard Gabby Bernstein talk about it before too. She's obviously written like 7 or 8 bestsellers at this point, and she said she's written them all years ago. They were all down in her journal. And then you just have to pick one and figure out which one is going to be the easiest for you to carry to the end. Are you a part of
Thank
Writers
you.
Academy?
No.
Oh, we need to get you in there because it'll make it so much simpler too. Everything is
And the
broken down
funny,
so easily.
I don't know if I'm meant to write a book, but I've always said when I worked in retail, I need to write a book. I need to write a book. I don't know. It just like a lot has happened.
Yeah.
When I was in retail world, and it's all coming now into reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's weird how it's just like things that I've said then are
Mm-hmm.
now coming to reality now.
Yeah. And I know, I think everybody does this. I've heard so many people say it since they've met me after writing the book, where they're like, yeah, I want to write a book, but I don't know if I'm meant to. Who says anybody's meant to or not meant to? Who gets to decide that? If you want to write one, you're going to write one. And it's going to do well if you have that passion and that drive, which I think you do. I believe it would be fascinating. I mean, from what I know about you, it would be fascinating. I would read it. I sign me up. I'm in. It's really just a matter of getting over that fear hurdle and starting.
Yeah, it's the fear.
Mm-hmm. And which is normal. We all have it, right? Everybody has fear, but everybody can also push past fear, because the fear is there for everyone. But the thing that's going to set you apart when you're starting to really create momentum and make a name for yourself is, can you feel that fear and choose to continue on anyway? Choose to live in that space and let it be okay. Oh.
Thank
All right,
you.
well, you got it. Thanks for that question, Christy. All right, so we have Amanda, we have Carolyn, we have Steph. Let me know what questions you guys have. Oh, it looks like Carolyn is raising her hand. Carolyn, I'm taking you off mute.
Okay.
Hi.
I was wondering, by what you were just saying, like I write down just short thoughts that I have daily. Most of it is like my dreams and stuff like that. But I don't think I have enough to write a book. I mean, so could you actually make that, I'm sorry, my words, I had a stroke, so I can't think of words sometimes, where you could write it a non-true story to where it would be spread out more, like it all happened to one person.
Yeah, if you were writing a fiction story, you have.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
I gotcha. I used to work with stroke victims, and my background's in cognitive neuroscience. So I used to work at Temple University's hospital, and it's perfectly fine. When it comes to writing a fiction book and really starting to create the structures around that, I think a lot of them build over time, where you start with a smaller story. And as you're starting to create the backstories for your characters, things get more intertwined and they start to naturally grow on their own. And a lot of fiction authors take years to write their books for that reason, because you're writing down small pieces and then you're letting them grow. For instance, I think the woman who wrote the Twilight series said that the entire thing started with a dream. She had a dream of a woman and a man laying in a field, and the man was glittering like he was made of diamonds. And that was where the entire idea behind the books came from. And she just kept building upon that idea over and over again for years until she had a book. And then she had a book series, and then she had TV deals, and now she's famous, Stephanie Myers. So it's normal for it to start that way, and you shouldn't let it discourage you, because you're just going to continue. It's going to be like its own little orbit. It's going to be like, it's got this centerpiece that you're going to start from. And as you develop the character stories and start to understand them and make them real, the story is going to become more intricate, because there's going to be questions you're going to have to answer. And as you answer those questions, the story is going to continue to write itself. of why would this person do that? Like if one of the characters' names is Joanna, why would Joanna choose that? Why would she make that choice? What's her motivation behind it? What's her home life like? And that's where you're going to have that momentum to keep writing. So you're exactly on the right track. You're starting in the right place by starting small and keeping track of those things. And now you're just going to weave that web together.
Because a lot of the dreams are the same people. It's like I'm watching a movie. So I just started thinking, this would make a really good book.
And maybe it's getting downloaded to you. Maybe it's not dreams as much as it is divine downloads where the story is coming to you. And it's just up to you to take it and weave it together and put it out there into the world. You're getting all the information. Just let it keep coming.
True.
Yeah.
Although I know it's me, the dream, but it doesn't look like me.
Does it look like it's from current times or from another time period?
No, it's past. It's from past, like pioneer days.
Sounds like a past life to
I
me.
see myself as a child and adult.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a past life that's sneaking its way through.
Yeah, and it really interests me.
Yeah, if it interests you,
write
yeah, it's gonna interest other people.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's very sad and traumatic, the dream, how it ends, but it seems like a book or something that it almost seems like something that somebody would have written, but I wouldn't have been able to figure it out if it wasn't for this dream.
You need to write this down, every piece of it, even if you're recording it, right? Even if you wake up in the morning from these dreams and you're just speaking into your phone and going, okay, here's recording number 6. Today in the dream, this happened, this happened, this happened, and then write it down when you get a chance to. I think it's coming through to you for a reason. It sounds like a past life, and it would make an excellent story.
Because even myself and this guy, it's like we are in present time now, but it's like we go back and meet there all the time, and we just stand in front of each other. It's so almost cool. Like we're comforting each other.
Yeah, like your souls are meeting again.
Yes, and I don't know who it is.
Yeah, that's for the end of the book.
Yep. So I could even write something up too.
So we started this by saying you don't know what to write, and now you have a full-blown story.
Yes.
You need to go write it. It's time. Don't wait.
Yep. Okay.
It's going to be so incredible when you do.
I hope so.
I know so. If you give it the time, I think any project can really become so powerful. Yeah, I think all of us, when we start anything, we stop.
Yeah, and it's getting motivated. Since I've had my stroke, now I'm like retired 100%, and I'm just I'm lost without my regular structure of how to plan my day or anything. So I guess I need to start planning where I write an hour or 2 a day.
Yeah, so this could actually be a second question. So the question is like, how do we actually create the motivation and the structure to write? Which even if you didn't have a stroke, is honestly something that a lot of authors struggle with. So my recommendation for this is that the brain really requires consistency. It craves it even. And when the brain does not have consistency, things tend to fall through the cracks and you become unmotivated and you stop. So the best thing to do when writing or when launching a course or when you're working on brand deals or becoming a content creator is to create an actual schedule as if you were working a 9-to-5 job, where you know what time you're getting up in the morning, you're getting dressed, you're not staying in your pajamas. As enticing as it is to do that, it's important to actually get yourself into clothes so that you feel like at that point you're sitting down and you're being professional in some way, even if the clothes are yoga pants and oversized cardigans like I do sometimes, like I'm doing today. Creating that structure is important. Having the same food or drinks or candle smells with you will trick your brain into doing whatever the task is that you want to do. Our brains pair sensory experiences with tasks. So like if you study for an exam with music, but you don't have music during the exam, you will perform worse than you would if you had the ability to listen to music, or if you didn't listen to music while you were studying. So you want to create a schedule for yourself where every day you sit down, you get green tea, you have an oversized cardigan on, you're sitting in the same chair at the same time. You have the same candle going, and buy like 6 of them because you're going to burn through it because it's going to take time. And at the end, your brain is going to be so wired into this new routine, it's going to feel so normal that it's not going to feel like you lack motivation. It's going to be the norm. It's going to be the consistency that your brain actually desires. So it'll be easier that you think once you get it going. And it does take
Okay.
2 to 3 weeks to get it going.
That does make sense, because the reason why my camera's off is because I'm laying in bed. I just have not even gotten up yet today,
Yeah.
except to use the restroom.
Yeah, it's hard
So-
when we fall out of those routines. Our body and our mind really crave that consistency. They don't know what to do. We need it
Okay.
as part of being a human being.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right. Well, I hope that helps. Let me go on
Yep.
to another question. Let me grab, let's see, Steph and Amanda, either one of you guys. You just pull yourselves off mute if anybody has a question.
I'll go on.
Perfect. Hi.
Thanks for having us today.
Of course.
I guess so much, but my question is, I feel recently like I have this like huge power and energy that is coming through me, and I don't know what to do with it. Like in the sense of, I've used this analogy a few times, like I feel like I have this power to go out and like pull an airplane. And then I go into the gym and it's like, well, here are the 15-pound weights. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. And I feel like primarily in like, I want to show up so strongly for women. I have so much to share and value to give to moms in particular. And I just feel like I'm not making that impact that I know I can make. And
Yes.
so kind of looking for some, I'll say, guidance, feedback, thoughts.
Perfect. Okay. So what's the way that you're showing up for them now?
So I have a Facebook group. I'm on Instagram, but like primarily inside of my Facebook group, I share, that's kind of where I'm at.
Mhm.
I don't have any paying clients. And that's really where I want to, that's really where I feel like my impact is. Is it group? Is it one-on-one? I don't know. Right now, I really feel like it's one-on-one.
Mhm.
But I just feel like the impacts that I'm making are small. And I know that they are there because I do hear from some of them saying like, thank you so much for showing up, or thank you for the content. Like, I really appreciate it. But I know that I'm not, like, I know there's more.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect world scenario. If your life is exactly what you wanted it to be, how would you know that you were making that impact, and what would your day look like?
I would know because I would have clients that were reaching out to book with me. I would have 2 to 3 clients a day that I was meeting with, that benefited from the value that I brought and that were invested in working with me. And then I would know because I would also feel the financial aspect of it. Like with my family right now, my husband is supporting us 100% financially. And that feels really, I don't like it. I really want to tilt the scales to make it even. I really want to like tilt the scales so that I take control. And right now, and there's a piece of that too, because I used to have more income, and then the more kids we had, it dropped, and now I have none.
Yeah.
And feeling really, I don't know that I'm feeling out of balance because of that, but I'm just feeling like I want to bring
More.
balance. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So do you have offerings right now? Like, do you have packages or one-on-one sessions that people can book and they're
Mhm.
just not booking them?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that I've seen, something that I work with my mentorship clients on, is the way that people show up online. Because nowadays, what happens is when people are looking to work with someone, they're going to 2 places. They're going to Instagram and they're going to TikTok. And if they're not doing that, they're asking for recommendations from friends and then finding the people that are recommended on Instagram and on TikTok. So your presence in those 2 places is huge. And if you want to have clients who are coming through, you have to leverage Instagram and TikTok as being places that people will really understand what it's like to be in your orbit. What is it like to work with you? What will it feel like? What are the results they're going to get from it? How are they going to feel afterwards when they're done? And my question here is, do you feel like your social media channels give that impression right now? Or is there something more that can be done there?
Inside of my Facebook group, it does. Instagram is more of like, it's not hit or miss. It's just not as consistent because it's not as easy for me to create that content. So usually what I'm putting on Instagram is out of my group, like one or two of the things that I put inside of my group then goes on Instagram, and then I'll recreate it into like a YouTube short.
Which is great. That's definitely a funnel of sorts that you're creating movement and having things happen. I'm thinking more for new clients, right? Because the people who are in your Facebook group are people who are like choosing to be a part of your world. They're regularly going to be there, but they're not signing up right now. So they know you and they understand you, but they're not paying you. And
Right.
the issue with that is those clients aren't converting into paid clients.
Right.
Whereas if you find people who are brand new in places like Instagram and TikTok, you might have a lot more ability to leverage it. My advice here is to choose one, not both, because it's going to be really overwhelming. I have 2 kids. My time is limited. So I usually choose one that I put most of my focus into. Right now, it's really TikTok. That's where most of my focus goes into. And my IG subscribers. I think about you guys all the time. My regular Instagram, it is what it is. It's kind of like secondhand content, sort of like you're saying, but I've created enough traction with it that it can be a placeholder at this point. It can do that. Facebook is somewhere that you're going to nurture people. You're really going to let them stay within your space, and you're going to give them some of this content the same way that'll happen on like an IG subscription. But if you want new people who are going to pay, my advice here would be TikTok. And the reason why I say TikTok is because it's the easiest app to grow on, and you can grow very quickly. And it's all about authenticity. And you're talking about your energy and how you feel like you have so much energy to show up for people right now. So if you were to make 3 to 5 videos a day, it sounds like a lot. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it is a lot at first, but then you get the hang of it and it takes no time.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. It is and it isn't. If you just kind of pump out content and commit yourself to like literally like 60 days, 2 straight months of making 3 to 5 a day, posting 3 to 5 a day on TikTok, and having the link to your Facebook group in the bio, but also, if not primarily, the link to how to work with you in paid ways, you're gonna get clients from it, because everyone is using TikTok like a search engine. Instead of going to Google and finding personal trainers or finding coaches or finding shadow workers, they're going to TikTok and they're using that platform. At least that's the way that TikTok is breaking it down with its analytics. People are using it like a search engine.
Right. So I have a website necessarily. So, I mean, I have like a Calendly link page. Like, does that suffice as a place? Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't need bells and whistles. No one, especially like the younger generation coming up who are having kids, who are really the people that you're targeting, these like 25 to 40-year-old women, they're not like, oh my gosh, like there's no website. What are we going to do? If you were working with women who were 55 to 65, it might be more of an issue because they're coming from a time when your website meant a lot. But I think because you're targeting the ones you're targeting moms, which you're really hitting that like 25 to 40, you're hitting them. They don't really care about the website per se. What they care about is, can you offer what they're looking for? And if you show up with authenticity on TikTok regularly, they're going to feel like they know you and they're going to want to work with you and they're going to sign up to work with you from there. Okay. And my advice here is to actually look for the hashtags that are relevant to what you do. What is it that you do with moms?
So take them out of survival and thriving.
Okay. So what hashtags do you think people might search for around that topic?
So I do a lot of like mommy, moms of preschoolers, moms of toddlers.
Think more about the problems that they have, like mom guilt, surviving motherhood. You really want to search those pain points, because if they're searching for something, they're searching for answers. They're searching for, what's the solution to my problem going to be? So use TikTok like that, where you're going to search for those things, and you can take the videos that are there and create duets and stitches out of them. And then you can also use those hashtags in yours.
Right.
Christy said, interesting about TikTok, I need lessons. Yeah, we could talk about that today too, right? Like, this is a Q&A, ask me anything. I have 74,000 followers on TikTok, and I find it massively helpful for reaching the clients that I need to. And it's also something that I teach the women who do mentorships with me, because TikTok is a marketing tool. It is the best marketing tool that exists right now. And all those TikTok videos that you make, you can save them to your phone, and now they're YouTube Shorts, they're Instagram Reels, and they're content for your Facebook page. And I would let them go on your regular Facebook page, not in your group, because we're trying to draw new people in, not necessarily do more with the old ones because they're not purchasing. Not that you don't want to give them value, you do, but you really need to be reaching out into the ethers and pulling in the people who are going to come work with this version of you, the one who's ready. The biggest holdup for anybody who wants to make money online, period, bar none, is visibility. If people don't know that you exist, they cannot work with you. If they don't know how to pay you, they can't work with you. So you have to make sure that they see your face, they know your story, they know how you can service them, and they know where to put their credit card. How does that all sound?
Sounds good. It makes sense too. Like, I use my Facebook group, and I think I need to utilize, like, I don't really have many followers on my page. I think it's like 10, because I don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Using that and bringing more content there, because then it's public versus inside of the group makes sense, especially
Exactly.
not creating what I wanted to create.
Yeah. And the nice thing about the public spaces where anybody can access them is the people who are afraid to go into groups. Like, maybe there's someone who doesn't want to admit that they need help, which happens a lot with moms, especially after like the past few years of like Pinterest moms and everything has to be perfect. I can't admit that I have mom guilt. I can admit that I feel like I'm surviving barely at this parenting thing. I don't necessarily want to go into a group where I'm laying that all out and making it available for everyone else to see. I'd rather hide in the shadows and then reach out to you privately and let you know, like, hey, all that stuff you've been posting, I see it and I'm interested. That happens with me with shadow work too, because shadow work is a loaded topic and people are nervous about being vulnerable in that way. But you just have to give them opportunities to find you and to work with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, Amanda, I want to make sure that you get to ask any questions that you have too.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to think of my question. I haven't had one just yet, but I was just listening in, and I think it's really interesting about how you say utilizing TikTok, because like you're right. Everything that I want to look up, I'd rather watch it on TikTok and see it,
Yeah.
and not necessarily go on Google anymore. I don't really use Google anymore. I do go on TikTok and look it up, and I think especially being a mom of, 2 boys, I think it's great, Steph, what you're doing, because we do feel lost. And you're like, okay, I'm a mom, I cook, I clean, I do this, I do that, but who am I? And you do feel stagnant in that way. And I think it's really good that you want to work with moms in that way. I think it's really neat. I've never seen anyone before to just specialize in just helping moms find their way and getting them out of mom mode all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's so important. And thank you so much for that feedback. If you think of a question, let me know. But I'm going to piggyback off of what you said, because I think all moms, when we first get into it, you're not really given the information. Like, nobody tells you what it's going to be like. Not even like childbirth. Like, people are like, oh, like it's going to be painful. Like they make jokes about it, but like you don't realize you're going to be split in half. You're going to be bruised and sore and stitched up, and everything is going to hurt for at least a week, if not two, if not three, and sometimes longer. You have no idea what you're in for. You don't know you're going to be wearing adult diapers. I don't think we do a good job of preparing moms. And the postpartum depression that comes afterwards, I think, is in large part to the fact that we don't talk about these things, that you don't realize how your identity is going to change so massively, and you might never fully get it back, because then your life becomes all about the kids, and then the kids are gone, and it's like, what do I do now? Like I'm just here existing without them. Where do I find my place? I think we do a huge disservice to women. Because of this, you know that there's a market for the audience that you want to work with, but you also know that they are limited in time and funds, sometimes one more than the other, because the people who don't have the funds might not be the working moms, but the working moms don't necessarily have the time. And sometimes it's a combination. So finding ways to meet them where they are. I think you're spot on about one-to-ones for that reason, because a group of moms is hard to get together because this kid's got soccer and I just had a baby that's not sleeping at nighttime, so I can't get up early in the morning and do this, or whatever the constraints are. I think one-to-ones are perfect for what you're looking for. But you need to put yourself where they are. And a lot of the time, moms are scrolling TikTok. They're looking, they're watching, they're trying to find support and camaraderie amongst other women who are like, yeah, me too. I'm also going through this. And then they're sending those to each other, because I get those all from all my girlfriends who, my kids are 6 and 8. All my girlfriends and my sister just had their babies recently in the past year. So they're all freaking out collectively together. So they're there waiting for you if they can find you. And TikTok is the easiest place to grow. So I'll share with you guys a really quick strategy for TikTok. If you have a TikTok and it's not taking off, shut it down and start over. Because TikTok in the first 30 days will give you the ability to grow massively if you use it well and use it the right way. And if you don't, the algorithm has already decided in some ways that you're a dud and it's not going to push you. So if you don't have 1,000 followers yet, shut it down and start over. Rebrand yourself, start over. Save all those videos and repost them. But what you're going to do for your TikTok strategy is for 30 days, you are going to post a minimum of 3 times a day. 5 times a day is preferable. And you're just going to post like crazy. It doesn't matter if they're duets, if they are cute little TikTok videos where you're doing like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, though those don't do as well on TikTok as they do on Reels. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be 15 seconds of you being like, moms go through this, and I just thought I'd share it because we don't talk about it enough. Let me know if this relates, and just see what people comment. But you're just going to produce content, and it's about anything. Like Carolyn was talking about her book before. You just go on there and you just talk about other people's books. You make a book talk account and you start talking about the books that you're reading right now. Here's 3 books that changed my life. Here's my top 2 fiction books I think everybody should read. Or here's a book about self-love that I feel like should be required reading right now. And the answer to that is shadow work. So thank you. But you go on and you post all these things like crazy until you gain that traction, because in 30 days, TikTok is set to look at your account and decide who you are, what you're about, and if they're going to push you. And in those 30 days, you have the ability to grow massively or not. And you can still grow over time if you don't get that push, but that push is like riding a tsunami. It makes it so much easier to grow, because a video that might get 200 views currently on your page will get like 15,000 in that first 30-day window, especially after week 1, because in the first week is really just figuring out who you are and what you're about. After that point, you're going to push it and kind of go, what does the rest of the world think about this person? How do they view them? What do they think? Is she interesting? Is what she has to say something people are interested in? And that's where you can really have that boost. And the important thing with any social media, whether it is Instagram, TikTok, Facebook groups, YouTube Shorts, is calls to action. You need to let people know how to work with you. You can't have it end where they have no idea what you are offering, because then they're not going to work with you. They're not going to pay you. So even in Steph, your Facebook group, you always need to link it back to the ways that they can pay you. Now offering a limited number of one-to-one sessions. Currently accepting 3 new clients for this package. Once the 3 sign on, there's no more available for a period of time. create that number so that people understand there's a little bit of scarcity around it, because you can't onboard 10 new clients all at once. That would be overwhelming. So use that to your advantage and say, I can take 3 new clients right now, and that's the most, and start to create that demand and keep showing up and keep being there in people's faces. And when they have questions, answer them in really thoughtful ways. Make sure that they know exactly who you are and what you have going on. Same thing for you, Carolyn, with Book Talk. If you were to start sharing other books that you love and start really speaking about them and just let it be that. I mean, with a lot of these things, like, you don't have to go crazy. I know Book Talk accounts that literally just have like 5 books fanned out on the floor, and it's like what I'm currently reading. And like 5 seconds later, the video is over and it has 10,000 views. So you can put as much or as little effort into it as you want to. You don't have to go crazy, but what you do need is a lot of content. So just keep filming. All right, that's my TikTok spiel. What other questions do you guys have? Or if you guys are thinking, I have a couple questions in my DMs and also on my emails that I can answer. Anybody have anything that is pressing right now that they want to answer? Or should I go to one of those? All right, I'll hop into one of those questions. All right, so the first one is, what are my top tips for creating content? All right, so we kind of touched on this already, but I think something that makes content creation a lot easier is remembering that you're the brand. Even if you do something specific, like you work with moms, or you're a shadow worker or a Reiki healer, you're the brand, you're the niche, not the thing that you do. So sharing a bit about yourself is always going to get people invested. So if you ever run out of ideas on things to say, start relating it back to how you got into it, why it's important for you. So for me, if I'm talking about mom journey stuff, I would talk about how young I was when I got pregnant, how I had no idea what it was going to be like, how I didn't understand what postpartum would be like, even though I was a licensed therapist. I had no idea what it would be like going through it. And I would use that to create content. I'd make a bunch of videos about all those things. You can make videos that are about things that you've studied before. So if you just got your Reiki certification, you can talk about the process of getting certified and doing Reiki. What was it like? Who was your instructor? What are the things you had to do? What levels 1 and 2 were like? And what was the process of going through them? What the hell is a Reiki attunement? What does it even mean? Talk about the things that you've learned and share those with people. Or if you read a book that you really love, like you just picked up, let's see, what's on my shelf? How Not to Die. That's kind of a morbid book, but it's all about nutrition and health and how what we eat impacts our ability to live healthy lives. You just take that book and you go, just read this book. Here's the top 3 lessons that I learned. The bottom line is that everything is content. Nothing is off limits, except if you make it off limits. And this is where boundaries come in. You guys know next to nothing about my children, and that's not an accident. I keep my kids separate because they're not a part of shadow work, and because their lives to me are something that it should be up for them to choose. They ask me to be on my social media all the time. I always tell them, no, they're 6 and 8. If they were 16 and 18, it would be a different conversation, because then they're old enough to make those choices. That's a boundary for me. And I break that boundary a little bit in this group, like with the people who are subscribing, because one of the things that I promised is behind the scenes looks at my life. So you guys can actually see what it's like to be a mom, but also run out to a news station at 6 a.m. to be on live TV, which is what I'm doing tomorrow. So I'll be posting about that stuff, because it's good to see the balance and to understand what that looks like. But for the general public, the 20,000 other people who are following me, they're not going to see it. That's going to be private. So deciding ahead of time what is within your boundaries and what is outside of your boundaries, so that you don't cross those lines. I find with a lot of people who consider themselves content creators or influencers that they accidentally cross those lines because they never actually decide where the lines are. So if you're not sure, it's easy for it to just keep nudging its way out until everything about your life is now public and nothing is private. So decide ahead of time what is not going to be shared, and then share everything else, because it's all content. All right, so that's the first question that somebody asked. Let me go into the emails and grab the next one. All right, the next question that I have is planning events. How do I actually do it? And I think this question is because I do a lot of in-person events and obviously a lot of online events, like things like this that are smaller, but also stuff that's just generally going out pretty consistently. I don't waste a lot of time. I think when it comes to planning events, it's sort of similar to how I would suggest writing a book. You need to understand what the main motivation is. What's the point? Why are you doing it? And then from that main point, you can create the structure around it. So whatever the main objective is, how do we get the people who are involved to reach that point? How do we create that awareness so that they know exactly what it is that they're getting into, what they're going to get out of it, and what the experience will be like? So when I create events, I try to share from that place and let people know that it's going to happen. When I create events, I do the same thing. In Philly at the end of February, I'm going to be doing an in-person Valentine's Day event. I'm actually not doing anything for it personally. I'm not sharing shadow work. I'm not going to be one of the speakers. I have 3 women who work for me in some capacity who are going to be the facilitators. I'm creating the structure. I'm bringing in all the pieces of the puzzle, the location, the time. I'm setting the price. I'm creating the vendors who are going to be a part of the event and the flow of the day. And then other than that, I'm trusting that all the pieces are going to fall together because I'm going to create awareness around it in that same way. I'll let people know about it and they'll know exactly what they're going to get out of it and how they're going to feel when they're walking out of it. So they purchase tickets and come to the event. Doesn't matter how small it is, whether it's an hour-long Q&A with you guys, or if it is a day-long Selfish Philly conference that I host, which obviously is a lot more moving parts. It always starts the same. And that process works for everything. It's the same thing with writing content for social media. I'm going to write that the same way that I'm writing a book. What's the main objective? How do I want people to feel when they're a part of it? So I think a lot of Instagram coaches in particular will write content for social media where they just go on and on and on. And it's like, what is the point? I'm reading it just out of curiosity. Like, are we ever going to hit a point? Or are we just kind of floating through the ethers? I don't really know where it's going. The ones that perform really well, that have hundreds of likes on them, a lot of engagement, so many comments, people who are sharing it are the ones who make the objective known early and stick to it. They really make you understand exactly what it is. And at the end, that call to action is there. So whether it's an event, a post, a book, it all has the same format. And the more you learn that, the more you can apply it to all these different facets. You can use it everywhere. The one thing that makes events slightly different is that if you're pulling in other people, you need to have relationships. You need to have other people that you can lean on for the events. Selfish Philly is a perfect example of this. It's massive. Hundreds of women gathering together for a single day, keynote speakers, panels, Philly area celebrities. We've had so much going on all in one space. So for a big event like that, the relationships are really important. So networking is huge. So I definitely recommend getting to know people around you. It starts even on social media. It doesn't have to be in person, where you just reach out to people in their DMs, not because you want something, but because you're genuinely interested about them. You're curious about who they are, about what they have going on, and you want to form a relationship with them. And so you start those conversations. And then over time, as you guys get to know each other, as you keep those conversations going and expand on them, then you can have the ability to ask them, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to come work this event for me? Do you want to be in this with me? Relationships are the key to building anything. And that'll help you across the board with everything else too, because they might have a podcast that you can go on and speak about whatever your given topic is, whether it's a book or the coaching program that you're doing or the Reiki healing that you're doing. You have the ability to share that with more people because of these relationships that you have. Don't be shy. Don't feel like anyone's too big that you can't reach out. Sometimes they won't get back to you because a lot of times when people have larger accounts, their DMs are just flooded with people. They can't respond to everything. It's overwhelming, but shoot your shot and shoot it a few times. Like, don't get discouraged if you shoot your shot once and it doesn't work out. And it's even easier when you're reaching out to people with large accounts if you comment a bunch on their stuff leading up to it, not on that day, but over the course of many days or even a week or 2 weeks. If you just consistently are giving love to them on their page, when you pop up in their DMs, your picture and your username will be familiar because they've been seeing it over and over again on their stuff. they're more likely to respond. This is how my relationship with Gabby Bernstein started and why she follows me on TikTok. And we go back and forth and do duets with each other because it started in this way, where I just made sure that she was constantly seeing me, constantly engaging with me because I forced her to by commenting on all of her stuff. And then I slid into her DMs from there. So it's worth a shot. Trust me, it can happen for anyone. All right, we're kind of getting close to the end of our time. Are there any other questions that you guys have? Anything that you're curious about? All right, well then I guess we'll leave it here. Thank you guys so much for coming on and for your thoughtful questions. I hope you feel like you got a lot out of it and like some questions that you have been answered. Don't hesitate to reach out to me in my DMs, especially on Instagram, because I'm constantly in there. You can always ask. And if it takes me a little while to get back, I promise it's not that I'm not seeing it. I just have a ton of stuff I have to get to. I will always answer your questions. All right, guys, thank you again. Love you all. Bye, everybody. Have an amazing day.